Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Joy, would you please call the roll?
Hamilton?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Revelinsky?
Yes.
Ledger Kalin?
Yes.
Hammes?
Yes.
Halley?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additions to this evening's agenda or changes?
Yes. I laid a resolution in front of you. There is a resolution for the Park and Recreation Department under the consent agenda. And the sheet that I put in front of you, those highlighted in yellow have been added. Normally, I wouldn't do this, but Christy Leisure had an accident and broke her arm. So we have no lifeguards and school's starting. And we're kind of panicking. These kids were all trained and they need to start immediately. So it's just the ones in yellow that are highlighted.
I think that's fine, Joy. We won't have a problem making those approvals. So we'll add that within our consent agenda, this revised resolution for employment. We'll also add a report from the Street Department from Daryl Bisgard under the committee reports. Anything else?
Can I do a RAGBRAI wrap-up?
RAGBRAI wrap-up. Thanks, Bill. Okay. Okay. Then we'll move to our consent agenda. We have approval of minutes from the July 22nd meeting. We have a resolution for employment, and as Joy just mentioned, that is amended to include the list of lifeguards that you see in yellow. We also have approval of liquor licenses for Casey's, number 1549, and Scott Vaughn had just informed me that Orpheum Theater, he was not able to do an inspection in time for this evening, so we will not be considering Orpheum Theater in this. And approval of claims in the amount of $330,696.53. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Moved by Revelinsky, second by Rasmussen. Please call the roll.
Revelinsky?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Ledger Kalin?
Yes.
Halley?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Hammes?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to our appearances of those wishing to address the council. We have one request from the Chamber of Commerce regarding approval of use of the city parking lot for the citywide garage sale September 21st. I don't believe there's a representative of the chamber here right now, but I think this is something we do annually. I'll just ask for the council's approval on the use of the city lot for the garage
Tracy's
sale. Pardon me?
Tracy's here.
He's not
He's
Tracy's
not
no
one of
longer
these,
in the chamber.
Part of the chamber any longer.
Oh, what do I know?
So moved.
Thank you.
But we do remember him fondly there. And we've approved his request many times for the use of the parking lot. So entertain a motion then to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Hammes,
Second.
second by Hamilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to our action items and ordinances. Kevin, we have two action items regarding contracts for wastewater. Can you bring us up to speed on those?
Yes, the first item here you will see is the wastewater phase 1 facility engineering contract for McClure Engineering. The contract following that would be for French Reneker and Associates. The McClure Engineering contract would be for the engineering associated with the facility portion of improvements in our sewer rehabilitation efforts.
Did we have a copy of those contracts?
Yes.
Where?
We didn't see him.
I emailed them all out to everyone. I have some
What, today? After 3?
about a week ago. Again, about, I think maybe a month or so before that, we had them. The engineering improvements account for about 6.4% of overall, coming in at just over $900,000. That figure will go up, of course, once we start the project. You'll have construction, inspection, and the like, bringing that probably up into the the 12 to 15% average that you normally see in these kinds of efforts. That's for the facility portion of the improvements. But the contracts were sent out.
I have the July 18th.
Yeah, I have it here.
Yeah.
Just
So
wanted to make sure.
Do you have the? I'm just scrolling through right now. But do you have the amount of the contract we're approving, Kevin?
$960,000 and change. I can get that total. I can get the contract and add the total amount up, but it's roughly about 6.8% of the overall fees for the project, which would be about $14 million, I think.
Okay, so that is for the McClure contract.
Yes, there are some to be determined fees in there, so the overall number right now can't be known because there's the construction inspection portions. There's some staking costs. A couple of those to be determined costs because they're based on actually what, basically it's going to cost to get that done.
Okay.
Inspection being one of those kind of unknowns off the bat, but our base fee here looking rather good on a percentage level.
Okay. So council, then the action item would be to approve the engineering contract with McClure Engineering.
Move
Yes.
to approve.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Ledger Kalen. Any other discussion?
Since we have representatives here, I did have some questions for them. Could they
Okay.
come up?
That'd be fine. Representative McClure here?
Yes.
Thanks for
And
coming.
identify yourself.
I'm sorry, I'm Mike Starkey with McClure Engineering.
So Mike, go ahead, John.
This is a real hard one for me because it's such a high amount, and we get engineering out of it, not something tangible. And so, maybe can you make me feel better about why we're going to pay you $11 million?
Oh,
Not the engineer.
Slow down.
project
That's
costs
not
would be.
wish I were paying
Yeah.
so
Oh, Lord,
Yeah.
disclaimer.
Yeah, no, the total improvements we're looking at is a little under 12 million at the plant for
Okay.
work. And so the engineering that we've given you right now is to take you through bidding and get you started in the construction. So like Kevin said, we're at 6-7% of that cost. Typically, we're doing an expansion of your existing plant, which is typically a more detailed work. It's not a clean, field that you got to work with. So can everybody hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
So we feel that we keep track of what these costs typically run, and this is well within the range. You could expect more like around the 8% range.
And also the tangible portion of this work is basically, this is giving you bidding documentation, this is giving you engineering documentation. The
Yeah.
improvements could not occur without, this work taking place. This is basically the design portion of the work. So.
And this, and really, this is a large step towards meeting the requirement or promises that you have made thus far to DNR and so forth for the improvements that you're going to do. And what we've committed to is we've got a goal out there of 2020 to try to get 75-80% of your I&I removed from the system, the SSOs. And so really key to that before we got to take care of it at the plant. So really the first step, we really are shooting for having construction done by the end of 2015. So it's really just the first step in getting you there.
Okay, thank you. I feel better. Thanks.
I think one big difference that you saw and you'll see in the engineering agreement for French Reneker is that French Reneker had a section in the middle of their agreement that said for portions A through H in this contract, you're going to be paid X number of lump sum dollars, and for H through Q, it's going to be another lump sum, and the total lump sum that's estimated at this point in time for the improvements that are going to be done to the transmission system is going to be about $567,000 for the engineering services. And there was not that same type of language in the agreement from McClure. Theirs focused more on total construction costs and estimated costs for all of the improvements out at the plant, which he was talking about, which is the $11.795 million, which is shown on, I think it's sheet 11 in the document that you're looking at here. So there's going to be one, that's the major difference between the two documents when you actually look them over and read them. And just by scanning through, that's what I picked up on again after I read them through all the first time.
Right.
So,
And sometimes you'll see an estimate of what these other like staking and inspection costs would be that's not provided, but The overall hard costs are provided, I think it was 967,000 and change roughly.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or discussion? Please call the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ledger Kalen,
Yes.
Revelinsky,
Yes.
Hamas,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Hallie,
Yes.
Your Honor, the second item there would be the French Reneker contract for Conveyance Engineering, and this would be engineering related to the conveyance system, all the pipes that we're going to be placing in that are part of this step one or first phase of this activity that will bring us up right at Lamson Woods area.
And the total in that, I read 221,000.
No.
No,
Five.
it's on
What's that?
page
Yeah, it's
8 of 9.
No, it's
and
Through H is, yeah.
It's like
It would be 321,500, and then
Plus.
portions I through M would be 298,000 for a total of the two segments or steps that they're talking about of $566,000.
Well, those two add up to
619.
619.5.
619.5. Okay.
The A through H portion, to correct what Kevin mentioned, the A through H portion is for the step one, which takes us up through Lamson Woods. I through M, excuse me, is preliminary work on step two that takes you all the way up to campus, starting some of the easement negotiations associated with that.
Yeah, we wanted to get a little bit ahead of that.
Yeah,
of
get a
the-
little bit ahead.
The curve on the time limit, starting between ending one project and starting the other one, it'd be good if we had all that done while we were messing with it. It's being a time-consuming portion of the work, so.
So the difference between the 566 that you're showing and the 619, when you add the two together, is page 8.
Page 8.
Yeah,
I have 321.5,
right.
298.
298. And above that, it says engineering fees for services in section A. 1A and 1L is a lump sum of $566,000. That's the paragraph
That-
right above that.
Yep, I see that.
Is that something that needs to be corrected?
That does need to be corrected.
Okay.
That, it looks like M got left off.
Of that number?
Yes, M got left off of that number.
Okay.
So if you
Um,
change one L to one M, and the 566 becomes 619.5.
Okay. So I would recommend approval of this contract with the change made to page 8 of 9 to increase, or to change 1L to 1M and increase the number to 619,000 approximately to coincide with the two agreement section 1 lump sums.
The total contract approval will be $619,500, and we will make those amendments in the section and also the lump sum amount. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ledger Kalen. Discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ledger Kalen,
Yes.
Hallie,
Yes.
Revelinsky,
Yes.
Hamas,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Thank you. Well, we're certainly taking some big steps tonight, there's no question about it. In terms of this engineering work that will begin, that will start a process to moving us towards a major rebuilding of our sewer and wastewater infrastructure. So we appreciate the work that's been done to get us thus far. These are very big commitments. We understand also what this is going to mean down the road to the public. We've had those discussions openly. We can continue to be concerned about the cost of the projects overall long-term. We're going to do our best to measure those out in a way that's fair and equitable.
Right. Again, I feel that this is probably the biggest civic undertaking that the city of Fairfield is moving forward with since the original construction of sanitary sewer in the city of Fairfield. So,
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to the awarding of our 2013 street resurfacing project for the resurfacing of Maple Street, Harrison Street, and 14th Street. Melanie, I'll ask you back up.
I think I'm about half the agenda tonight, guys. It's all done.
Just, can we get you a chair up there?
They need it. For the resurfacing of Maple Harrison 14th Street, there was one bidder. There's about 2 bidders eligible or potential in this area. One bidder to Norris Asphalt of Ottumwa, Iowa, for $139,599. The engineer's estimate was $142,000, so just under the estimate. We see no reason not to award it. Even though there was one bidder, we see no reason not to award it to Norris.
Yeah, Norris Asphalt is very familiar to our city. They do a lot of our resurfacing work and have won a lot of our bids. So I would recommend we approve the awarding of the street resurfacing project to Norris Asphalt.
So moved.
Moved by Hallie,
Second.
second by Hamilton. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Hallie,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ledger Kalen,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Hammes,
Yes.
Revelinsky.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will discuss setting a hearing for, this will be a public hearing on the proposed improvements for both the wastewater treatment plant and the conveyance system. This will be a major meeting, which will be the first opportunity for the public to look at our plans. Certainly property owners that are going to be affected will want to participate in this. Kevin, do you have any other background to give us on this meeting? I know notices went out this week
They did, and
to property owners.
yes, and we're putting ads in the paper. We hope that any affected property owners will come to this meeting. It's a very good opportunity to air concerns or to talk about the project and find out all the details that one would want to find out about it. It's the public hearing, so it is essentially the first most important meeting that we're going to see about this project, other than this one, which is putting the contracts in order. But it's a very important meeting for interested people to show.
And we'll have representatives from both engineering companies. We'll have plenty of maps and good material for people to review.
Yes.
Okay. And about how many people have been contacted for this?
Do you know how many letters we sent out, Melanie? I'd say maybe 100.
We sent about 80 letters,
Yeah.
which affects around 140 parcels.
Yeah.
And of course, we went outside the limits of the project. So if any access easements or anything like that are needed, those property owners were contacted.
Okay. Thank you. And will we be prepared to give any of those property owners any detail about what type of work and what timing or anything specific that they'll be able to go away with, or are they just going to get a general outlook about what direction we're going?
For this meeting, as far as the conveyance system, I'll break them up into the 2 systems. On the conveyance system, we're going to be showing them where the existing sewer is. Part of the public input process, or the public input process, helps us determine what kind of residential, environmental, political type issues we're going to run into in constructing the sewer. So we don't have a final alignment laid out. So we'll show them a map that's where the existing sewer is, as well as their property lines. We have a general feel, as in step 1 will be spring construction, step 2 will be 2015 construction, and that's about all the more defined we get with the conveyance system. On the equalization basins and the stuff at the plant, we're a little more defined. We're going to work on bringing some pictures of what other equalization basins would look like to help the property owners understand what's going around near them. We will a little bit more detail as far as what plans we have on that one.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. So council, then our action would be simply to set the public hearing date for September 4th at City Hall, 5:30 p.m.
Move to set public hearing.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Rasmussen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next is a resolution authorizing and approving a form of interim loan and disbursement agreement, City of Fairfield and the Iowa Finance Authority This is, Kevin, give us an explanation. It's $500,000 in sewer revenue capital loan notes.
Yes, Your Honor. This is a portion of the planning and development SRFs that we'll be undertaking to do some of the work that we've been discussing. There'll be other issuances coming forward because we have quite a bit of front-end loaded cost on the planning and development portion of these projects as we've been talking about, but this would be the first of those.
Okay, what kind of a schedule do you see of needing these types of notes, and is there a reason why we're
Not doing
biting them off in small chunks, it appears?
Well, there is. Melanie, you want to talk about that? I'm going to wear you out. Basically, the way we're undertaking the improvements is part of it. But.
Right. The $500,000 application was made before the discussion of the contracts that you approved tonight. It's basically for the work that McClure has already done and the studies that they've already done related to the treatment plant and the collection system. The monitoring that was done last year can get reimbursed with this money. So that's the $500,000 portion. Probably in a month. It just happened to be the date the applications were made, and they're made on a quarterly basis. So in a month or two, you will have another close to the $3 million worth to cover the engineering fees that you were approved tonight. I will mention that these are 3-year, 0% loan that then get wrapped into your construction loan.
We had a little over $300,000 involved in the hydrology studies that we recently completed to let us know exactly what our situation.
And the rate studies.
And the rate study, that's right,
Yep.
fee rate studies, 2 of those.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? Not entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the borrowing.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Ledger Kalen. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ledger Kalen,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Hallie,
Yes.
Revelinsky,
Yes.
Hamas.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, council, we have 2 annexations that we're going to be dealing with. And Kevin, again, I'll ask you to talk about that. I know that the properties are both contiguous, and if you can just talk about those for a second.
They are, these 2 properties are in relation to the TIF we will be doing on Highway 1, which is forthcoming here. And we have some sewer effort that we did with Casey's, about $67,000 worth of sewer along with this effort, and they'll be helping us. Their TIF basically will hold that down. Pilot Grove, we have the entry for the Pilot Grove Bank, that little entry road that goes in front of the church off Highway 1 there. That's what our work will be associated with, taking the improvements all the way to the edge of Pilot Grove's property. So their value will basically be propping up those investments in that economic development TIF. Behind that area, we'll have a standalone housing TIF. And we have talked to some development interest about that project going forward. We'll come back with more of that here maybe in 4 to 6 months from now. Currently, though, the 2 items here are to annex these properties in to officially establish this TIF. District 1 problem, we'll be needing to table the last Deo property because, as it turns out, there was a small triangular sliver of DOT property in between that we actually didn't see until most recently. So that would remove contiguity and would also establish an island in doing so. So we'll have to get in touch with the DOT to hopefully bring back in our next meeting the last Dale property along with the DOT piece for voluntary annexation to help complete that district. Pilot Grove will be the first section here. Very important that we get this done tonight, of course, because Pilot Grove's waiting on us to begin construction. Not that they're in too much of a hurry. I think we're fitting with their construction schedule, but we certainly are just fitting.
Move for approval.
Okay. Moved by Revelinsky to approve the voluntary annexation by property owned by Pilot Grove Savings Bank on South Main Street.
Second.
Second by Hamas. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Revelinsky,
Yes.
Hamas,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Ledger Kalen,
Yes.
Hallie,
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll table the second request until some of the issues there with that land, that property is sorted out. We'll move to setting a date for a consultation and public hearing on a proposed amendment number 1 to Highway 1, Highway 34 Bypass Urban Renewal Plan. If you can give us some background on this, Kevin.
Yes, Your Honor. Basically, what we did with this TIF district is not create another TIF district because there was already one in existence there that the American project had been undertaken with. So we decided to basically expand the parameters of that existing district and that be our district. So the one we're creating is actually the first amendment to that district that we have had in establishment for some time.
So that was the Pale Moon
It was.
subdivision.
Exactly.
So describe now, will this be a similar TIF arrangement? Is it
Well, the American agreement was a what's called a rebatement. It was using TIF
Right.
to do a tax abatement.
Right.
So they pay their taxes yearly. We rebate those taxes back. I would say the likelihood is that not will it be that done that way again. Typically, most development interests are going to want us to either perform a capital investment into a project or to an economic development grant is typically what you'd see now. The first
will it matter?
Well,
will it matter?
I think-
in the joint, in the blending of the two districts.
No, it won't, because of course we have in the TIF district you have these different tools at your disposal. I would say the first one of those in a level of proceeding to more serious incentive tools would begin with rebatement. So that is actually the first consideration you'd like for them to do that.
Okay.
That many times won't work, but
Okay. I just want to ask our city attorney, John. Would that be your understanding?
Yes, I don't think they're going to have any difficulty with putting two different kinds of uses in.
Okay. Thank you.
I was going to say, Your Honor, that basically here at the beginning is a consultation for Tuesday, August 20th would be with the other taxing entities in relation to the TIF, and of course the public hearing would be that.
Okay, so those are two dates, hearing dates that we're looking to set, and then the consultation obviously is so that the other taxing bodies can weigh in on the impacts of creating these TIFs.
Yeah, let us
And
know
then
their
the public hearing on Monday, September 9th, which is our first meeting in September, would be to actually create the TIF.
Indeed.
Okay. So we'll take one at a time then for the consultation hearing on August 20th, 3 p.m. at City Hall. Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hamilton.
It's in one resolution. Yeah.
Okay. What's in one resolution, we'll take both at the same time. Okay, so we'll approve then both the consultation hearing and the public hearing on September 9th at 7 p.m. at our council meeting, City Hall.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hamilton, second by Revelinsky. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next, council will move to our second reading, which was tabled from our last meeting of the rezoning of 809 West Taylor from an R2 to an R3. During our discussion at the last reading, it was brought up that we couldn't find record of the property owner of John Kuster being involved on the property. John, you may have been out of town, so we kicked your name around a little bit, but we're glad you're here tonight. So if that could be discussed and cleared up first about ownership of the property, and then we can move on to our public hearing. John, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry I wasn't here last time. I got my days mixed up. So the property was conveyed to Maplewood Apartments LLC. I believe it was in February of this year. The attorney that handled that transaction, we had the deed transferred. We owned the property. He just hadn't recorded it at the courthouse.
Okay.
So that's been done.
Okay. All right, thank you. So then we'll open the public hearing at this time. And council, just ask at this point, any new information or considerations since our last meeting?
I've had quite a little bit of input from the people in the neighborhood down there. And I've noted in the past that there is going to be impacts to traffic and movement through the neighborhood down there with change of use from the building of what it previously was to what it will be. I think that the impacts are going to be greater on the neighborhood than what we as a council have taken into consideration at this point in time. And I'd like to say that I'm more in support of the neighbors in that area at this point than I am with the project itself.
I have a comment
Thank you.
as well, for me.
Sure.
After my visit to the property and also discussion with the neighbors, I'm kind of leaning with Darren here. I'm uncomfortable because it feels like putting a big foot in a small shoe, something. Trying to get that many apartments into that place, and the effect on the neighborhood, what that would be. I feel like if I had some kind of, and I did discuss with Mr. Kuster and his partner, one of his partners, about this issue, and they said, well, we're going to do what's practical, and but without an assurance for the neighbors, I feel like if just as an unknown that it's possible that there would be that many apartments jammed into that tight of a space, I feel like it's not a positive for the city in general, especially the neighborhood. So I'm not prepared to vote in favor today. So is that what you're looking for?
Just wanted, no, that's fine. I just wondered if there were any new information or comments from the council, and then I'll open it up to the public hearing at this point, if anyone else would like to comment.
Hello, City Council members. I have never been to a City Council meeting, and I've lived here for 7 years, so I'm super nervous. But I feel like this is an important issue. I feel strongly about it, and so I have prepared some remarks with my perspective on this issue.
Liz, I have the benefit of knowing you, but if you would let everybody else know what your name is.
Yes. My name is Elizabeth Tietza, and I'm a resident at 906 South 8th Street. And I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you tonight, and I hope that you will consider my comments as you make future decisions regarding the rezoning proposal on Taylor Street. I know that many others, including my husband and my neighbors, have attended prior meetings and expressed their concern over this issue. And while my comments and concerns may be similar to what has previously been expressed, my intent is to share my perspective and experience and hopefully persuade those of you who plan to vote yes to re-examine your vote on this very important issue. I am deeply concerned that the rezoning of this property, coupled with the plans discussed by the current owner, open wide the possibility of subsidized housing. I recognize the delicate and sensitive nature of this discussion, as some may view this concern as being judgmental or discriminatory of families needing assistance and affordable housing. I am not a stranger to families who struggle, and am certainly not unsympathetic to their difficulties and needs. I have worked as a Head Start family advocate for low-income and immigrant families. I work as a substitute associate in the Fairfield Community School District because I care about kids and families and want to help those who need extra support and encouragement. I also currently serve as a mentor to students at Pence Elementary. I am also earning my master's degree in school counseling because I hope to help many children and families in the future that struggle and need help. We also belong to a church where we tithe 10% of our income, and we give fast offerings each month to help the poor in our congregation, as well as those here in Fairfield and around the world. My sister was a single mother of 4 children who lived most of her adult life in government-subsidized housing. So one of my life's passions is to help the underdog, and I feel strongly about that. And yet, I worry about the changing dynamics of our neighborhood if this measure passes, and I want to do what I can to defeat this proposal. As you are all most likely aware, several subsidized housing units already exist on Tyler Street, on the opposite end of our neighborhood, right down the street from my house, as we are on the corner of South 8th and Tyler. We have lived in our home for 7 years, and I personally have had to call law enforcement several times due to various issues involving residents in these units. I placed these calls for a variety of reasons. Young, unsupervised children roaming the streets alone at night, public intoxication, which was extremely scary and disturbing, and disturbance of the peace. There have been many times when I have been in my backyard with my young son and have heard so much yelling and profanity that we have had to come inside. We have had to close our windows on a number of occasions due to the same issue: loud, angry, fighting, disturbing rants laced with profanity. This is not a constant problem, but a frequent one. Many of the residents in the units on Tyler are transient, only staying 1 year or so at a time. There have also been evicted residents whose entire contents of their apartments have been on the front lawn for days at a time. I recognize that not all residents in subsidized housing have problems with the law, but I think it is naive and dishonest to not admit that there is a higher frequency of neighborhood problems that occur in these units. Please consider the impact on our neighborhood, as we will potentially be sandwiched between two subsidized housing communities. Ours is a compassionate, contributing, invested neighborhood who is deeply concerned with preserving its integrity. Please consider what you would do in our situation if you were raising your families on our street. Please listen to our concerns, as the vast majority of us oppose this project, because with all due respect, it will affect us much more than it will affect you. I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you, Liz. Anyone else?
Kari Baby, 1006 South 8th Street. And what I've prepared is not anywhere close to, to Liz's eloquent speech. So I just put down some thoughts about what I find disheartening and heartening. So I'll start with disheartening first. That our neighborhood will be negatively affected by John Kuster's or Maplewood Apartments project as currently proposed. And it does bring into this thought of a tipping point, because at one end of the block we do have subsidized housing, and then at the other end we're going to have that as well. And I just feel that, yes, we have to be sensitive to everyone's needs in a community, and we have to learn how to integrate them all without having it concentrated in one area, that it actually affects those that invested in the neighborhood negatively already. So in thought of affordable housing, there was a quote that I just wanted to give that George Galster, who teaches urban affairs at Wayne State University in Detroit and who's published 2 books on federal housing policy, said that any more than 4 vouchers within a radius of 1,000 feet typically starts to have a negative effect on property values. So it is talking about that tipping point that we run the risk of entering here. So that is of great concern. It's also disheartening to think that many of my neighbors look to sell and move if this project projects a negative influence. Now these people, my family is in northern Wisconsin. So being a single mom, and this is my son, he's 7, my neighbors have become my family. We have Uncle Mo across the street, we have Grandmother Marilyn down the street. It is so great to have that support that I'm sure many of you feel in Fairfield. It's disheartening to think that John Kuster would want to proceed down a path that the neighborhood is so clearly opposed to. And it's also disheartening because I'm sensing something in going through this process that planning and zoning has pushed through the zoning request, thinking that the city council will fully analyze the feasibility and the external considerations. And yet I was sensing coming out to all these city council meetings that city council members were thinking planning and zoning have already considered all of those external conditions at hand. And since they've already pushed it through twice, let's go ahead and go on autopilot. So, and then I also was sensing as well, and this is just my personal opinion, that we are being allowed to be a part of a council process without our interests being fully considered. Like the majority does not have weight in the decision. And it makes me wonder if special interests or relationships may be driving the proposal through. And, you know, that's just, I'm new to the city council meetings. I've never attended prior to having to come for this project. And I do see some change happening, you know, as far as allowing the process to restart and everything. And so I do thank you for that. So, heartening. Neighbors coming together in opposition for the last 4 months. Wow. Right? That's great. It's also heartening to see and really start to fully realize how my neighborhood and neighbors are investing in improving our neighborhood, our homes, and the Fairfield community at large. And, you know, thank you for each one of you that has put in countless hours of research, discussing the issue with fellow neighbors, and even for all the stress and sleepless nights that you've all endured. Thank you very much. And it's also heartening to see members of the council taking time to listen and being open to changing their steadfast stance in support of protecting majority interests. So thank you. I know the three of you have, you know, really spent a lot of time with residents in our neighborhood, and I really thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been here for every hearing, and I'm concerned that however you vote on this, you don't fall into something that the city government can't. When you consider the private interests that are in competition here, you have to go back to the early 70s. There was a series of cases that dealt with practices of realtors and lenders at that time. And they all focused on a concept that was called redlining. And it's all about the economic status of the people in the area that is being dealt with concerning particular real estate. And redlining is something that is as bad as racism. The Supreme Court thinks so anyway. And it's a problem that has two ends to it, because one of the effects of making a decision based on the economic status of the people that are going to make use of the real estate is that you have exactly what we're hearing, that people start talking about selling, and it has the automatic effect of a decline in the real estate values. If you're a real estate manipulator, if you're a real estate lender, if you're a realtor, in some situations it's very transparent what's going on. In other situations it may not be motivated by that kind of manipulation at all, but the Supreme Court doesn't care. It's inherent if you let that be one of the criteria that governs your state action, that governs your governmental decision. So whatever your consideration is, and all of the different things that you've heard from both sides on this, you cannot let the economic status of the people that are ultimate users of the property be the determinant. Y'all with me on this?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
All right.
John.
I'm
This
concerned
issue,
that
yeah,
that's threaded in this,
Yeah.
and it can't be.
I think there's a natural concern that issue is being brought up when there really isn't anything on record to determine whether there is going to be this is going to be a subsidized housing unit or not, and then if it is, understanding that not necessarily be the basis where you make a judgment on whether the project is right or wrong. Kari, I just wanted to mention to you also that the planning and zoning, I understand that there is kind of that dynamic. They don't feel that they necessarily have to deal with those extraneous elements. They're empowered really just to make a judgment about the legality of making that change within our zoning ordinances to make the determination that it is a compatible use of property along with the contiguous property that's there. So that's all we really ask them to do, and anything else should be expected to be evaluated here, and certainly that's what the council comes prepared for as well. And as elected representatives, it is really their own decision, and the public hearing process is for both sides to make their case and then make a determination based on their individual feeling and evaluation of the situation. And we can see that that's changing and evolving. So I hope you have some faith in the public hearing process, because there has been some of that most recently. But again, I think that we said this from the very beginning. I don't believe anybody feels there are any bad guys here, but at the same time, we understand what the neighborhood has come together very strongly about the impacts and feel very passionately, very strongly about that. I don't think anybody denies that, which is why we've been taking our time in going through this process.
Your comment? Actually, I really respect what Mr. Kuster and his partners are trying to do with their employees, because I don't. It's different than unemployed people who are transient. These are people who work for them, who are family for them in some sense, and they're going to be provided some nice housing, hopefully, through this project. So for me, that's not really a consideration. I know the neighbors have brought this up very strongly, maybe the redlining issue, and I may have alluded to it last time. Someone kind of spotted me for saying that last time, but I want to just state, and John, please, if you feel that somehow I'm inappropriate or in trouble with, yeah. Well, anyway, I just want to restate, that my resistance to this project is, kind of goes back to Jim Horace's statement at Planning and Zoning. So, well, if this doesn't happen, then it's just going to go to the raccoons and whatever. And I don't think that's the case. I feel like the property, obviously, it's a valuable piece of real estate. It to me, I kind of agree with Horace that it deserves to be developed, but my concern is that if the plan is to jam too much into congestion into that space, it's not going to be a healthy living environment for people. It just with the traffic considerations, the lack of, if it's being considered for families, the lack of proper area for them to play or access. It's just, it was built as this little self-contained place for people in a nursing home, and it doesn't have the sort of air around it from what that was just my feeling, John, in going through it. And where you said, well, here's going to be the play area, and it was 10 feet and then a drop off on down a cliff, sort of, and there anyway. So from what I've seen, I feel uncomfortable to say yes, go ahead, and from my side and build this in that neighborhood. So again, I want to say publicly, it's not. I respect what you're doing for your perspective, for your employees, what you're trying to do for your employees, and I think maybe the fears of the neighborhood on that level are unfounded. as far as deteriorating the neighborhood because of, people who bring the problems associated with poverty. Anyway, I just want to say that.
Well, I have to say that I agree with what you just said, John, as far as the facility and the density. And from the very beginning in all of this, I had talked about the impact of the traffic in the area. And that's where my main focus has been all along. Whether it's subsidized housing, whether it's subsidized by you and your partners alone for the people that work for you, I have no dog in that fight. And I want you to know that. I'm more concerned with the fact that the neighbors feel, and they've expressed to me from my ward, that they don't believe that having that much added traffic to the neighborhood is going to be beneficial for them. And that's where my feeling has been all along. So.
Thank you. Mr. Kuster, do you wish to add anything tonight, or
I'll speak after everybody else.
anyone else in opposition?
Mayor, Council. Name's Paul Myers. I live at 1107 South 8th Street. And in 1999, my wife and I bought our house. And we've been upgrading usually something in our house, almost every year, buying and hiring locally, because this is what we believe in, stimulating our economy of Fairfield. We bought into our neighborhood. We invested into our neighborhood. So, really, and what do we really know? Are they presenting me? We know 19 or less apartments. Supposedly designed for the Sunnybrook employees, single moms, 1 to 3 children. CNAs making $10 an hour, 1 to 3 children, and privately subsidized. And the building has mold issues. What has the neighborhood done since we found out about it? We got 22 or 23 letters written by concerned neighbors. We have covering high density, more traffic, noise pollution, increase in crime, is the building salvageable, and of course the government subsidized. We went to Sunnybrook, we listened and learned details, and we keep hearing it's privately subsidized. It really was kind of a theme. We kind of lost the momentum of a lot of the neighbors because, it wasn't government subsidized. This was privately subsidized. It wasn't going to be government subsidized. That's what we kept hearing. We went back to planning and zoning. And it really was because a lot of us didn't get letters to go to the first one. We didn't know about it even, about the first planning and zoning meeting. So supposedly I thought we were going to hear a proposed plan. There was nothing. John didn't even talk about anything. We were defending like we're defending now. It wasn't about hearing what he was going to do there. We didn't hear nothing. Basically we're there and we're defending ourselves to planning and zoning. So now we're here back. We're at our second reading of 3 again. You keep telling us to trust. You're telling us to trust John and the rest of the investors. It's really hard to trust because we don't know John personally, like a lot of yous do. And we're not talking about a building not owned. It is owned. It's the owner who keeps the building up. My wife and I do it. Most owners of houses do it. They bought a deteriorating building, zoned R2, not R3. John talked to me a couple meetings ago after the meeting and said that basically some of his workers already are qualified for Section 8. He said that they would be allowed into this building. and he said he could make more money that way. I asked him, is that because the more children, the more you can charge? And he said yes. So is this going to be privately subsidized, or is this going to be government subsidized? John? And how does this keep the integrity of our neighborhood? You know, single family dwellings, we had a nursing home. You know, we invest our money into keeping our houses up, making a nice, wonderful neighborhood, love our neighbors. You know, this is our American dream. So this is what America's built about. Well, and I guess that's all I have for this time. And, we're just here trying to voice our opinion, get something that will work for all of us, you know, something we can embrace and really culture in our neighborhood. And that's where our concerns are.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Okay. Yes.
Hello, City Council members. I'm Nancy Gaub, and I live at 908 South 8th Street. And I do feel that our neighborhood, as most members of us, are very upset about the situation, and that you're starting to really understand how much we are upset about it, worried about it. And part of it has been because the plans have been so vague, and even among the investors themselves, apparently there hasn't been always consistency about what is actually happening. As recently as a week ago, I got an email from James Elliott, who's one of the investors, saying that it was highly unlikely that John Kuster would put any low-income housing there. And yet this was after John had already told 4 of us neighbors that there would be Section 8 people in the housing. And so I told in an email to James that we had talked to John and that he was saying that it was going to be low-income housing. And I got an email back from him this morning that included this statement: I do not wish to be a part of a project that encounters heated opposition from neighborhood parties. I would prefer to remove myself completely. And that's one of the investors. So I feel like that, some of the bad feelings that have been coming up, a lot of the people in the neighborhood have been feeling powerless. And I'm sure, Mr. Kuster and maybe some of the other investors have felt unappreciated, because I think probably they do have, good intentions about this. And I would just like to propose that Mr. Kuster really consider committing to an actual plan that we can know what's going to happen clearly, and that plan not be exactly what he had in mind, but one that would be for senior housing, which I think the opposition to this would evaporate if it were senior housing, whether it's low income or subsidized or whatever, because the main issues that are disturbing to people are how the quiet of the neighborhood is going to be disturbed, and if it were senior housing, then that issue wouldn't be there nearly so much. Also, you wouldn't have as much coming and going, and of course, we love children, but they wouldn't be, having lots of children playing outside, inevitably sometimes unsupervised, and disturbing neighbors who, one of whom is just a driveway away from the building itself. This is in really close proximity to the building itself. And so I feel like that would be a compromise that everybody could live with. And then we could restore a good feeling among the people of the neighborhood and the investors, and that you could feel good about voting for that as well. And I would just like to propose something positive that we could all agree on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. John, I think you're... Oh, Karen, another point.
My name is Robbie Vady, and I live at 1006 South A Street, and this is a very beautiful neighborhood, and I like to keep it beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. John?
Well, I'd like to answer some of the questions. If I forget one, remind me. One of the issues about the traffic, I guess I'm going to disagree with Darren in that the impact of what we have proposed would greatly change the traffic. Most of the traffic, 95% to 98%, is going to go down Taylor Street. Very little is going to go down 8th. And though a lot of the concern seems to be about traffic on 8th Street. On Taylor Street, and I've managed nursing homes. I've run lots of them. And I know how much traffic there is. And that's why there's a big parking lot there to hold that traffic. So will there be a few more cars or a few less cars? I don't know. But I can tell you that it's not going to be greatly different than what it was when it was a nursing home. That's my feeling. I could be wrong.
On 8th Street, I have to agree with that point, but on Taylor, there is going to be an impact of traffic, and there are people on Taylor that have expressed to me that they would hope that that wouldn't be a negative for them.
Mm-hmm.
One of which lives at the entrance right across the street from where this complex is. She's unable to be here tonight.
Right.
And she's expressed to me over and over again how peaceful it is right there at this particular point in time.
Well, right. There's nobody in the building.
But even when Nelson Nursing Home was there, the unfortunate part of what was happening at the nursing home is that a lot of the residents there didn't get a lot of visitors. And the traffic that came back and forth were shift changes that went on at the nursing home. And so the impact of the traffic seemed lessened because there were a limited number of people that worked and operated at the nursing home. So,
but having run a facility of that size with that many employees, I know that even though they don't think there were a lot of visitors, there is a lot of traffic. There's a lot of medical providers coming and going all day long, ministers, family. So I don't think the traffic should be an issue because it's not going to be that much different than the nursing home. And I could be wrong, and you could be right.
Yeah.
As far as the subsidies, my partners at Sunnybrook have discussed whether we want to subsidize this housing privately for our employees, and that is a possibility. I don't think the decision's been made one way or another to do that. In going through this process, we have discovered that some of our current employees do have Section 8 already. We're not going to turn them away. We're not going to discriminate against those people. And I think Nancy's comments from James, I don't think James was aware that our employees qualified for Section 8 housing, but some of them do. So there will be a mixture of people on Section 8 subsidized by us and some with no subsidies. But again, our intentions in creating this project was to create some decent, affordable housing for our employees in the community. A lot of these people aren't able to live in Fairfield right now. They want to live in Fairfield. And I think they have a right to live in Fairfield and to have affordable housing. And I know some of the people here disagree with that, and that's their right to do that, and I respect that. But I still hear a lot of people, the basis of their fears is that they don't want those people living in their neighborhood. And I reject that premise. And I'm not going to apologize. I'm proud of what we're trying to do. And I'll stand on that. So, thank you.
John, one question. One of the issues that we've talked about in the last month or so is the design and how many units. Has any more progress been made on that? Anything specific in terms of the design of the building?
I haven't gotten together with my partners on that. They've been waiting for this process to unfold before we invest any more money in that. So the last I heard is that the maximum that we could put in the building is 19. And walking through and talking with some of the neighbors, I think that would be stretching it to get that many units in the building. So,
okay, thank you. Council, any other questions for John?
So you don't really have any architectural, drawing of the whole, project yet? Is that correct?
We had a preliminary.
You did.
But it was very rough, and it was just getting to see if we could, with the infrastructure that was there, make it work. And the architect felt that it could work, but the number of units, and some of that also depends on what are the needs of our employees.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll close the public hearing at this time. Did you have something?
Yes, Your Honor, if I could make a couple of comments. The difference, Logan Apartments is in a two, an R2. Logan Apartments. The difference between an R2 and R3 in our present zoning code would be like splitting a well-licked cat hair. I mean, literally. We saw this when I read it at our last meeting. There is hardly a difference in those two, barely a difference. Literally, this project can be done right now and that district remain R2. I think, because I don't think he's going to end up getting more than 15 units. I don't want to tell him that. I don't want to depress him. It's depressing as a developer to hear that from a schmarmy planner, but I don't think he will, because the size limitation is so great with the size. The footprint of the building is what it is, and clearly if he's taking this on, we're talking economic dynamics. He's not going to add on space to the building because it's just too much money at that point. He's going to use the footprint he has, he's going to use the shell that he has. These are economic facts in this industry. He could do about the same project he could in an R2 that he's going to do in an R3. In government, we create a lot of words like redlining, because anyone who's going to say, classism is going to say also proletariat and revolution is probably going to be a communist. But redlining was indeed a term that was used to describe classism, discrimination based on class in housing, or, in this case. So what we're talking about here, and I'm not bad-mouthing anybody. Some people may feel a certain way about affordable housing or not. I don't know, and it's not a value decision I'm making. It's just that we shouldn't make our decisions as a public body, John is saying, based on that and that alone. When I hear a claim or a statement that we've had is this the sixth public meeting we've had over this issue? I think the fifth or sixth. We went back to planning because we made a procedural error and also wanted to more vet it. I think that was a good idea. I thought it was a great idea. We did. But even in the original planning meeting, we didn't sit there, closing our minds or our dialogue. I mean, we talked about this thing. We looked at, and I as an academic or administrative actor, look at the traffic impacts. You look at the dynamics of the thing. You look at the zone, is it appropriate? You look at what's going on around there, is it appropriate use? Is there compatibility? There's all these different things. There's a plethora of practical science that goes into some consideration like this, as well as with the Planning Commission, and then the council again on top of that. So to say that we haven't considered enough, or that we didn't appropriately enough consider, I think it's not outlandish, but it's certainly not the case on the face of this matter. We have looked at this stuff 10 ways to Sunday. Say yes, say no, but don't say we haven't vetted it enough or we haven't taken enough consideration. There's no privacy. There's no private relationship matter here. The planner that the city has been here less than a year. The council members and the planning commission members are so well separated from this process, as to be as to make their consideration literally toward the end of what is that consideration, that process. First, it's coming into somebody like me and somebody like John and somebody like I. We sit and have this big conversation about all these things in relation, because he's saying, zoning administrator, are you going to support this thing? And so it's like, I don't know. Let me look. Let me think. There's administrative, then there's procedural in the advisory board with the planning. Then there's the council in 3 readings. And we went even further this time and added readings to that. Say yes, say no. But do it for the right reason. And don't be convinced that this reason is we didn't do enough or we weren't vigilant enough or, class-based decision. But that's not who we are. And that's not how we are. Let's talk statistics about our own city. What is the average pay in the city of Fairfield? Okay, I mean, our largest employer is a Fortune 500, financial trading company. We're proud of that. I think it shows a very eclectic mix in our community. I mean, wow, I don't think I've ever seen a community our size where that's the biggest employer. But at the same time, we have extreme challenges in our own infrastructure, as we've seen, our provision of services, as we know, the ambulance matter we're going to discuss in a little bit, and the average pay of the average worker in the city. This is nationwide, but it certainly makes we're no exception. We're no anomaly to that. So I think, make the decision, but I say make it for the right reasons. We've done everything as right as we could have done it, and when we didn't, we made it right afterward. And, this is a straight up matter. There's no relationship at play here. There's no dynamic at play other than what I consider, having been in this business for 15 years, publicly and privately, to be a pretty admirable situation of case study type planning efforts where we reversed ourselves and went back to our advisory board once here. I've done that but a few times, and then we come back and we tabled this thing when we had a little bit of a doubt, which turned out to be a spurious worry, didn't it? Because there's no dishonesty involved in this process. Make the decision, but make it for the right reasons.
I've got a comment and a question. First, a comment. I was a little disheartened, upset, I guess, by some of the comments made, inferring we as council people were not fair, we're biased, we're whatever, and we weren't listening to all the things that were being said. That's not fair to us. We do listen. We see every 2 weeks we're up here sitting here. You've been to one meeting or no meetings until this. It's, be fair to us also and our opinions. I'm torn between the neighborhood and their thoughts and their feelings and the city of Fairfield. What's best for the city of Fairfield? Is it the neighborhood the way it is right now with the building falling down? Or is it that building being remodeled and restructured and reused for a good purpose? My question to you, Kevin, is, so under R2, they can have 15 units in that building, the way it is right now?
Yeah, I think they could.
So if we do nothing
15 or 14,
and turn this down, John and his investor could go to the building right now and make 15 apartments in there, or 14.
14, 15, somewhere in that. I mean, the density level is not
which would fit better in the neighborhood and in the building than 19 or 20. That's all I've got. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments, council?
Yeah, I'd like to say some things. I've been on the council now almost 4 years, and of all the issues we faced, some of them were pretty heated. I've never been more torn on something than this one. There's no doubt to us that the neighborhood is full of good people, caring people, generous people, and kind people. That was never a question in our minds. I understand the desire to keep it as it is, to keep it quiet, to keep it low density. But when all this talk of these Section 8 people comes up and it's this there's no they. If you want a they, look at me. I grew up low income and needed government assistance. And it hurts me to think that you wouldn't want me or my family to have been your neighbor, because we're good people and we were good neighbors. So we talk about rights. Yes, you as property owners have certain rights on your own property and collectively in your neighborhood. There's also the right to the housing of these people who need affordable housing in this town. And if the need weren't so dire, I probably wouldn't be voting yes. But I hear it over and over again. I see it all over online, people looking for housing. and not finding it. It's not there. We need more. We know that. We're doing a study to prove it, but we don't need the study. We know there's a housing shortage, especially affordable housing. So I feel if there's a scale, there's just a little bit more in my mind and my heart that the low-income people who need housing, these people who are hardworking, who have jobs, who don't want to travel to and from work, I side with them just a little bit more than the comfortable neighbors who are very fortunate. You know, your son is very fortunate that he's not in the need to have assisted housing. I lived that life, and you know, you guys, it's not fair to say that all low-income people are lawbreakers or drug users or profanity speakers. That's not fair. It's not true. So I'm voting yes because I want to lend support to the project. Now, if it goes R2 and they put fewer units in, fine. But I want the people who will then be your constituents in your ward, if this goes through, I want to support them.
We've closed the public hearing, I'm sorry. So I know we will have one other public hearing. So I'm going to ask the council now what their wishes are for this second reading.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hallie to approve the change from R2 to R3. This would be the second reading for 809 West Taylor.
Second.
Second by Ledger Kalin. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Hallie,
Yes.
Ledger Kalin,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Hammes,
Yes.
Revelinsky,
No.
Hamilton.
No.
Okay, so motion passes 4-2, and again, this is the second reading. We will have one more reading at our next meeting on the 26th. I just want to close this issue by saying that you know, this is an important process. It is important to listen to the neighbors in this, and it is legitimate to be concerned about the change in the complexity of the neighborhood. There are a lot of unknowns. We are trying to get through this process in a way where people understand each other better. I think there were some things that came out tonight that will help that. And I understand that from the side of the neighbors, you can feel a little powerless at times, but this is the best the process can offer at this point, is for this elected body to weigh the options and to make decisions. So we'll see you all again in 2 weeks. We'll move on then, Council, to Mayor's report. I don't have anything specific. I just wanted to say that and I know that Michael is going to give a report a little bit later on about Ragbri, but I did want to express to our department heads who are here, to our city administrator, and to everyone who was involved from the city side with preparing for Ragbri, that it was outstanding and really extraordinary preparation. The seamlessness and the preparation of everything logistical that went on during that magical day was just incredible and really did our city proud. There were so many people who made comments about Fairfield and about the preparation and about the welcomeness, the energy, the good feeling that was here. It was really quite extraordinary. So everyone, thank you very, very much. We know how much additional you did. We know that Sunday and Monday were probably real deep sleeps after the preparation and the cleanup. It was a remarkable time, and I hope it's not 16 years before we get a chance to do that again.
That's amazing.
Next, we'll move on to our committee reports. John, you have a Ways and Means Committee report?
Yeah, we had kind of a big meeting. We met on July 24th, and the first issue that we discussed was this solar project that's being proposed for the library. As I said in the minutes for the meeting, there's a proposal to borrow $43,447 to purchase and install a solar array on the library roof. Alliant will contribute $23,447 towards this from its Hometown Rewards program, and that'll bring down the loan balance to $20,000. The loan will be repaid from energy savings, and we felt that this was worth doing. It's going to be a demonstration project. It's going to be something very visible, educational tool. I know Rebecca's here. I know that she very much supports this. So I would move on behalf of the committee that we approve this this loan.
Second that.
Moved by Revelinsky and second by Hallie. Are we going to borrow utilizing the revolving loan fund that was set up for this purpose within the community, or are we going to do our own borrowing at this point? The other question I have is, having just installed 10.5 kilowatts at my own home and with the same program, I plan to watch my energy usage go down and put those dollars that I would have been putting into paying an electric bill into paying off the loan that I've taken. Are we going to take those same steps, Rebecca, in terms of our accounting and make sure that we are? Because I know I'm doing something that will be kind of revenue neutral in terms of the budget I have, the savings that are going to go into that. You'll be doing it the same way?
We're doing that, and we're taking an additional step. Excuse me.
So Alliant Energy isn't allowing us to double dip on this, are they? Because Alliant will give a rebate for the equipment as well. Now, I know that we're getting this award through our accomplishments for the Hometown Reward Program. Are we getting an additional rebate?
I can tell you that our board president, David Johnson, attended the Ways and Means Committee meeting and went into all of that in great detail. I wasn't there. I wasn't in town
That
We didn't ask that wasn't raised at our
Well,
meeting.
then I think you should look into that, because I don't know how Alliant would feel. It would be double dipping, but they are two different programs. So we should ask the question as to whether we could rebate the equipment as well as get the award and then take the cost down even lower.
Right.
I could make that. I haven't asked that question. That might be a good question to ask. We also are getting some, I think, $8,000 from the Library Foundation. Is that right?
We have some capital savings accumulated, and we're contributing in that way.
So that brings the total loan to $20,000?
Well, check on that. Check on the rebate.
Yeah, the original.
In addition,
the original.
I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say the original loan request was for 56 or something, but then
58,000.
There it was. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
And then but after using the reserves that the library had, then we brought down, instead of actually borrowing 58,000 and then repaying immediately with reserves, we thought, well, we'll just use those towards payment of the the project and borrow less money.
Yeah, this is a great program. I would just check to see if the rebate program would be applicable.
My understanding also is that we're able to reduce the interest on the loan through, is it called Iowa Energy Center? So they will supplement this so that the interest rate is reduced.
That's through some kind of a grant program, and Scott Tim was here, and he said that this is one of his pet projects, and he's going to personally make sure that that these grants are applied for, and he do as much as possible to make sure we get them.
Right.
Thank you, John.
In addition to this, as a nice display of energy conservation and a reward for the community's effort, we're going to have an educational display inside the library. So when people come into the main entrance, they'll see a monitor that shows moment by moment how much energy we're using, how much we're saving, what we're putting back into the grid as a credit, and so on. And in addition, we're inviting the community to celebrate with us on Saturday, September 14, starting at 5 o'clock. Scott has coordinated with Hy-Vee and the local farmers market to serve a meal that will please carnivores and vegetarians alike. And we will have a short presentation about hometown rewards, followed by a family-friendly environmental film.
I think of
And-
dinosaurs as carnivores. I don't think of Can we change that language a little?
Don't like that label.
I got your invitation today, and I thought, a dinosaur?
That celebration only happens if we vote yes today, isn't that right?
Be a family.
right.
Be scared
That's right.
together.
That's right. We're calling this a bike-in movie. Instead of a drive-in movie, you just bike in and enjoy a community film,
Great.
family film.
Well, we think
Now-
this would be a great project and a great way to celebrate. We have a motion and a second.
Can I
Sure.
comment here? As a member of the Ways and Means Committee, it was my understanding that the total project cost from the information that we were given is going to be $58,753.
That's
This
right.
is in the email and paperwork that was sent to me. 23,447 would be a rebate that would come within 2 to 3 months back from the Hometown Rewards Program. And that $6,000 was supposed to be allocated from the rollover funds from the library, and
That's
another
right.
$9,000 was supposed to be put forth by the library board and its finances. But the city was going to be responsible for the initial cost of installation, and then we would get those funds back after we had made that.
Yes.
Which to me in turn said that we would be borrowing $60,000, and then that money would come back to us after a time to be able to buy the loan down early.
But I don't think you need to if
The
there's a
library
capital.
has the reserves. What maybe you don't remember the end of the discussion, but John, what we had said was that if I said it. I said, well, if the library has the reserves, Martha was there.
Right,
Maybe you remember.
exactly. I remember that.
I said, if the library has reserves, why don't we borrow that whole amount? Why don't we just bring the amount that we're going to borrow down less, and then use the reserves towards the purchase price of this, of this system? And so that was the proposal that I understood. Kevin, you were there.
Yes, and we'll be reimbursed. That was at the very end of the meeting.
So those funds are available,
Will
so
be
if there are
reimbursed
construction.
or will be
The library would be reimbursed for the
upfront
funds they used.
immediately.
Yeah, well, we'd have to upfront immediately. The library would take participation, and they would be reimbursed when we got to that, point. It's like 2 months, I think.
No, that's not.
2 or 3
That's
months.
Dan's
No,
point.
didn't we say, Kevin, that we would borrow less money and we would use
Yes.
those reserves?
Yes.
That's the point that Darren wasn't sure
We
about.
did say that.
That was the point that I was unsure of, and that's why I was asking, because my understanding is that we, as the owner of the project, the city, would have to come up with all of the installation money up front
Right.
in order to pay for this. And
I was
it
proposing that.
would be 2 to 3 months for the hometown reward money to catch up with this.
Right. And so we're
it would
borrowing the
allow
amount.
us to
Right.
buy down on the loan at that point in time.
Right.
But if we are going to use that $15,000 that's coming directly from the library rollover fund and also from the board of trustees at the library,
Yes.
we will have that cash on hand before we even make the borrow for
Exactly.
the loan.
Right. And
That's
so
correct.
that's why we're
Because
borrowing
that would
15,000
result
less.
in a lower amount of interest that we have to pay
We're
over
on-
time,
the
because
point
you're
is we're
talking
just-
about
We're going to borrow 40.
the difference between $600 worth of interest on a $60,000
We're going to use their
loan
money.
versus $400 a month type payment on a $40,000 loan.
Right. So you agree it's a good idea?
I agree it's a sound idea with the return in the amount of expenditures that we will not have to make with the use of electricity.
Good.
Yeah,
So-
I was. Oh, I'm sorry.
We have another point. All right. So then the motion that is to approve the measure to borrow $43,447. Oh, please call the roll.
Revelinsky.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Ledger Kalin.
Yes.
Hammes.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
I'll just say real quick about these projects. The mayor himself is individually signed up, the building owner, the the office I work in has signed up because the solar rebates were so good this year and last, and they won't be next year. So people are doing this not for green reasons or anything like that. They're doing it because it made good financial sense. I was hoping this year we could do something bigger than this, but this is the perfect reward for the Hometown Rewards program of working so hard and cutting our energy use citywide. So I think Sustainability Coordinator Scott Tim will give a report prior to that event in September so that the whole community can hear how well we did. But this is good dollars and cents is basically what I'm just trying to say.
Thank you.
John,
the next
anything
thing that
else?
we discussed in our meeting was our second consideration of the issue with the ambulance service. Fairfield as a city belongs to the 28E agreement, which is an intergovernmental agreement with the county, and another participant is the Jefferson County Health Center, right? Are they yeah, in the 28E agreement. And we've been in it since like 2000 or 2001. And our contribution from our side, we stopped making the contribution. I think I explained this at our last meeting, when we started giving free rent for the ambulance when it was there in the fire station. And so now that they've moved out of the fire station, there's some pressure, some feeling that the city should contribute towards the $35,000 shortfall that there's going to be in their budget. They project to be in their budget this year. What I wrote here in the notes was this is after the county's $25,000 contribution. But what we discussed in our meeting was that because the city's budget is already set for the coming year, and because in the past the city contributed less than other 28E partners, there was some precedent in 2004 when the city contributed $10,000 and the county contributed $25,000. So the committee voted to agreed to recommend to the council to direct our city administrator to try to come up with $10,000 that we could contribute towards the ambulance operation. Do you have any comment where that might come from? Don't say Logan Apartment.
There are a couple of avenues through which that money could come from. Some of them include divestment of some of our owned resources. Some of them include lost. For instance, sales taxes. Some portion of it comes from sales taxes. There's a couple of other areas that it could come from. We have a couple of funds that do have, healthy balances. I'd say healthy balances. I wouldn't say anemic. I'd say healthy. There's more than one option of where we could get that money, and I think we'd be coming forward at some point here during the fiscal year, shortly forward, I think, with some ideas about a couple of off-budget items otherwise that we've been discussing, and where how those funds might be able to be split, with some options for council to consider, and that would be one of them.
So we could come up with it if we really.
Do you have confidence at this point, Kevin, to make a recommendation to contribute $10,000?
Yes, I do. I agree with the committee. I feel like it's the appropriate thing that we do that.
I'll let someone else make the motion.
Entertain them. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? So the $35,000 does not include a new ambulance. That just goes to the deficit of the contract that was agreed upon.
The understanding of the 28E agreement is that money was supposed to be contributed by all three entities to be put into a fund in order to purchase new ambulances as needed. Now, for whatever reason, that discontinued for a while. A new ambulance was purchased a few years ago. Payments were still made from funds from the county. The city had been supplying the housing for that ambulance. The company that was in operation of the service at that time were the ones that decided that the facility was inadequate for their use, so they moved to a new location. This new contract with the new provider carried over almost verbatim what the old contract had in it at a lower operating expense. But they now say that their contract didn't have these ambulances included in it. The ambulances that we have all have quite a bit of hours on them. An ambulance is different than looking at the mileage odometer on it. You have a lot of idle time, engines break down faster, they're in a heavier service use. And so one of the ambulances is in fair condition, another is in poor condition, and the third one is in near obsolescence condition. And so in order to replace one of those, someone's going to end up having to pay for it. And in a way, this 28E agreement, the money that we would contribute to this would end up going for those payments as a pass-through from the ambulance company that will buy the ambulance. But we still retain the ownership of those ambulances. We don't pay for the maintenance, we don't pay for the equipment, we don't pay for the materials that are in it that are used for patients or anything like that.
Okay, that's not what I understood. I understood that we did pay for maintenance on those and that we owned those. The
We do
28E
own
does.
those.
So
That's
why
what I was
would
saying,
the ambulance
yes.
company lease them or buy them?
We're saying if we change the agreement with the ambulance company, it might be better not to own them and just let them simply contract with them to supply them to us. This is something for the ambulance board to consider, but even speaking in a bigger way, we asked Kevin to research, well, what do other cities do about shortfall and running the ambulance? Is everybody pitching in from every other angle? How does it work elsewhere in Iowa? And Kevin said that we were the only 2080 agreement he found.
So far, thank you for bringing that up. But
Right,
I'm not done with that search yet. But
not
so
finished
far,
with your research.
yeah, not
This
finished.
agreement is valid until 2016, and
Which is
that's
just around
where
the
the
corner.
problem comes from. Is that we haven't been contributing in the past. It is tough to try to figure out where we're going to come up with the $10,000 in a budget that we've already certified as being balanced for the year, and now we're being asked for more money from an entity that, by
Well-
all intents and
well, this
purposes,
was-
knew at the time that we were going through the budgetary process.
But this
to
was
begin with, but
this
didn't
has
really
been on
bring
the
it to
table
a
for
head
a long
until-
time, Martha.
Yeah, they've
has it
been
not? I
asking.
mean, they've come back. The thing is, I don't think we dealt with it in the way we should have through our budget process, because I think that need was there. We are under contract with the company. We are in a 2080 agreement. We do have some responsibility to this. So I don't think we chose to deal with it during the budget process, and I understand why. But it really, I appreciate Martha, what you've done in kind of communicating from the ambulance board, and also Ways and Means for giving it some consideration and making this recommendation, because there is a real shortfall, and as one of the partners, we do need to participate in the way that we can.
I guess
have.
my struggle with it is, I understand that we own the ambulances, that's our responsibility, portion of it. But what I struggle with is we agreed to a contract with this company, and now they're coming back for more money. And that's what I struggle with.
Actually, they're coming back for the money that was in the 2080 agreement that we haven't fulfilled.
Not actually
They're
from
not.
the ambulance server themselves.
Well, no,
Okay,
there were
so-
It's really
projected
not from
shortfalls
Midwest
that did.
Ambulance.
There were projected shortfalls from the first meeting that we were all in, though, that have been exacerbated after the signing of a new contract. That is true. I mean, we were in the first meetings and we had like a $15,000 shortfall from the existing company. Then we signed a contract. That shortfall became $35,000. First estimates are always a little shy, but that shortfall is operational. It doesn't include equipment. We have, though, asked the company to give us an amendment to the existing contract that would have them handling the ambulance part of it. So I think there might be a way that the ambulance board, of course it's not for us to make decision-wise, but that the ambulance board could deal a contract with them that had them handling the vehicles, and there was some value for the existing vehicles that was a part of that. That had them, you are buying these, and I'm also, here's the different contract. We wanted to see what that looked. I think the ambulance board wants to see what that looks like. But it is tough. It is tough because of these shortfalls projected because of the state of the equipment. I think the ambulance may be, or the hospital may be talking about future planning initiatives, and had before talked about future planning initiatives that included like a sally port for ambulances. I don't know where they're at on that, but going forward, I think between now and then, they're looking at some of these options.
Just so I'm clear, because I'm not clear right now, where is this $10,000 going? Into the 28E to take care of our responsibilities for the ambulance maintenance, etc.?
Paying the company.
So this $10,000 is going to pay the company for their
Pay
services.
that shortfall towards rectifying the shortfall.
The
that they see
shortfall
in
of
their
the
budget.
28E.
But the 28E contract is essentially a contract with the company to provide the service. So it's a little bit of both, I guess. But I mean, basically the money will be funneled through the 28E apparatus into the company via payments for service.
So, to satisfy Jessica's question, then, could it conceptually go to both equipment operation and administrative operations?
It's a budget shortfall, as I understand it,
It's
meaning
just-
it is operational.
Okay, so it's going to the other company.
Yes, but not for equipment purchases, for simply to make the contract work as it is. Because it has a $35,000 projected shortfall by the end of the year. If everything remains normal and all activities go normally, they're expecting that by the end of the fiscal year, they will be $35,000 in the red operationally, not including anything to do with vehicles, whether it be maintenance or otherwise. So a maintenance problem with one of our antiquated vehicles could indeed drive that number up. Another 5,000, another 10, we don't know. Maintenance costs will drive that up. And may be driving a little bit of it already. I'm not saying they're not, they may be. I'm not sure how many repairs have been made this year.
Okay, and this is a for-profit organization, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. I just really struggle with how I can have a contract with a city as a contractor and then go back for more money because I didn't plan accordingly. And I'm just confused as to what went wrong here.
For profit may be the key there. They need to make profits, so we're going to pay them so they can do that.
Well, Jessica, it may have been an error in their contract because when we were considering who was going to handle city's new recycling program, the single stream, the reason we went with Waste Management and not with the other company is because the other company's contract had completely open-ended increase in expenditures. They capped it. They didn't base it on anything. They had no cap. So we could have locked in a certain price, and a week later, they could have come back and said, well, that's not what it cost. It cost this much more. Not a good contract, in my opinion.
And fixed cost is an important thing because you look at the rent we're paying. Where's $1,500 in this contract for a sally port, for a place to hold the ambulances? That's uncontrollable.
A lot of the ambulance expenses, though, may be set, but the revenues can vary depending on if it's Medicare, if it's, if it's reimbursed by health insurance, or if it's not, if it's just a Medicaid, if just, we're doing it anyway. And so the revenues to offset the expenses are not a given. And so
I understand that, but we picked a contract. We picked low bid, right? And now we're paying
I'm
for
not
it.
on the board anymore. I used to be.
I would agree with your point of view, except for we agreed to 28E to pay $10,000 a year, so we owe that money regardless of what's going to it.
And they're coming back to that by saying your in-kind isn't occurring. At Tony's point, actually, is really where they're coming back to. They're saying, well, your in-kind isn't happening anymore. Where are you at? Because you are a partner. And it's true, and I think that maybe we are.
Actually, you're raising a very good point that we didn't really clarify in Ways and Means. And so I'm certainly willing to go back a third time and get a clear answer to that question.
Well, it's actually not Midwest that's asking for the $35,000. It's the ambulance board that is. I mean, Midwest. In fact, we've gone to Midwest and asked about the possibility of them supplying the ambulances because that's where the board is in trouble because of the fact that the board is responsible for maintaining and putting these ambulances out there. And I mean, you heard the conditions of them, and they're not good. And so we're the ones that kind of have to contend with this, not Midwest. Midwest is only operating them, but they can't operate them if they don't run.
To clarify,
That's what it
Midwest,
really boils down
Midwest
to.
is saying, given the state of the vehicles you've provided, we can't do this at this price. We need this much.
Well, no, they're not saying that. They're saying based on what we're getting in revenue and based on what we're expending, we're going to be $35,000, we believe now, if nothing major goes wrong by the end of the year.
Okay.
And I think some of that is being impacted maybe by fixing equipment that's antiquated, but I don't know how much. But it's certainly operationally it's not making enough money. The utility itself, its utility purpose, I guess you could say, it's not flowing appropriately. Now there have been doubts that or concerns that have been put in by hospital representation that say basically, Obamacare, this thing is going to go on. We're going to lose our tail, maybe. We don't know. I don't think it's as unpredictable as that, because 10,000 bureaucrats simply can't all be wrong. Coming from a bureaucrat, I can say that. But if there's 10,000 of me, I hope that most of them would be right. But people who haven't been paying are going to be paying for the service. That's the whole idea of this. Economy of scale is increasing. So we don't, some of these projections are loosely based, but this 35,000 is real according to what revenues are happening and what expenditures.
I just, at this point in time, if Ways and Means is going to make a recommendation to approve the 10,000, I'll let a motion for that, please.
I would move that.
Okay, moved by Hamilton to approve a $10,000 annual contribution for this fiscal year. Second by Hammis. Discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Hammis,
Yes.
Revelinsky,
Yes.
Ledger Kalen,
No.
Hallie,
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Okay, so motion passes 5-1. And John, I know this last request was dealt with in our consent agenda, the approval of $15 an hour.
Oh, was that?
I think that was your
Yes,
last.
that was Jody.
Yeah.
It was.
I would change my vote then.
It was in the consent agenda.
I didn't notice that.
It was on your resolution. Jody Kessel, $15 here.
Can't take it back now.
Can't take it back.
All right, I do want to move the agenda along because we do have.
that's fine, that's fine. So it's already approved. Okay.
A closed session to.
Moving on.
Okay. So next, Daryl, would you give us a report from Street Department? Thanks.
I just want to make a couple of comments about the compost site. I think it's a great idea. People are using it. People are taking a lot of brush out there. We've had the tub grinder in there once now, and in a bigger pile. The mulch that was over behind O'Reilly's, people are using. If they set up an appointment, we go and load them for nothing, and we've been getting 2 or 3 phone calls a day. We usually set it up at the end of the day to do that. And I think that's a great idea, and we should keep doing that. My problem is with the compost site is that at one time, or about a month ago, we had some trash in it. We went through the trash. I called the police. They came out, and we went through the trash. We thought we found out who it was. We had to go ahead and clean it up. It wasn't too much, so we put it in our dumpster. Now I went out there today, and there's probably a truckload and a half of old railroad ties that people have used for landscape timbers and stuff. And there's some trash in it. There's some plywood. And so I had Andy come out and would take a picture and put something in the paper and say, you know what? This is for brush, garden waste, grass, leaves. It's not for trash, those type of things. I'm just trying to stress to the public, don't abuse it, because we can't lock the gate. We don't want to do that. We use it. It's not for contractors either. So I'm just trying to really put it out to the public. Let's use it for what it's for. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. So just because it says yard waste doesn't mean anything that's wasted from the yard goes there. I'm just trying to put that out there that, that kind of upsets me that people are abusing it that way.
Yeah, thank you, Daryl. Do we have anything posted there? No dumping? Is there a fine involved? Do we have a city ordinance that would
there's no
for dumping that would?
It says yard waste.
Okay.
Yes, if anyone were to dump waste there, it would be illegal dumping activity.
Right, John. What's our fine on this?
It could be anywhere from $50 to $750.
Usually graduating as you get,
He's writing it down. He's got it.
Civic infractions.
Graduating for repeat offenders.
Maybe it might be useful to use a different word other than yard waste, because there might be some confusion there. Or,
I think
clarify it or something.
We've just started this. I mean, it's how long have we been doing, Daryl? 3 months, I think.
We opened it up on the 1st of May.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll train our community in how best to use, but we need to keep invigorating the information out there in the public so people keep hearing and reiterating this stuff.
You could say something yard waste, but no
I think
lumber.
you're going to do the best education right at the point. So I would say, let's look at a
And
more
we could do
informative
that. I mean,
sign.
right now, it's our expense to go ahead and, we're going to clean it up as quick as we can because it'll just breed from there. And our newspaper's been doing a great job to help us with that type of thing. So I've asked the school there, if you see any dumping illegally or anything, take a license plate number. We'll see if we can go that way.
But we should indicate that it is illegal to dump anything other than brush, leaves, twigs, those sorts of things, and indicate that there is a fine involved, and I think that'll.
We can do a nice metal sign with 10 points of use. I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
And dear
Prison
a
industry
yard
sign.
swing doesn't constitute yard waste.
Yard
Somebody's
swing.
recycling.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
We don't
Okay.
want to recycle.
Thank you,
items.
Daryl.
The thing with
So
railroad ties
We're
is
going to move on
they are
to
treated.
public safety and transportation report.
Okay, so this will be pretty quick. We had a public forum to discuss the proposal that Don Sander from CETA had brought to us as sort of an outreach program that he wanted to provide to retailers that he was proposing that the city actually mandate that retailers go through an education program prior to applying for their liquor license. And so what we did is had a public forum and sent letters to all the retailers so that they could come and voice their opinions on the matter. And Don, we had a nice visit, and the consensus of the retailers was that they thought that the program that Don had was beneficial and was a really good program and that could actually benefit their business. So they are all about it, and but they would prefer that it not be mandated at first. And so their proposal was actually in conjunction with Kevin's idea of having more of a 2 strikes rule. If you have a violation, then you will be mandated. But what Don has committed to doing is going out with a different attempt and a different approach after he got some feedback from the retailers, and doing more outreach and trying to get people to sign up for this on a voluntary basis. So that's sort of how we left it for right now.
So would that come as a form of an ordinance or something? If we were going to put it as like the second strike kind of thing?
Right.
It would. We'd have 2 or 3 strikes, and if you did that, then you would have to go to this train. You, the owner, and a manager at least would have to have these certifications probably for like a 2-year. To get your alcohol license for like a 2-year period. It's like a probatory period. At the end of that, of course, we think that most people, because the vast majority of the businesses present, all 2 of them, actually are
There was
already.
more than that.
3 out of 4 had already done it.
Yeah.
Done
Okay,
the
yeah.
class. And one of the benefits
2 of them were there.
of having taken the class, especially online, if you're a retail owner and you have a violation, the first time in a 4-year window, you don't have the administrative fee come against your business. So you get your 1 strike right there. So it's very beneficial for the retailers to go online. 3 out of the 4 retailers that were there train their people online, and it's part of their training process.
Well, and they also got insurance. They said there was a little bit of an insurance
Reduction
kick there
in
too.
insurance
So
for
there's a
having
couple of
taken the
benefits we feel like will have them keeping it whether we do it or not after they actually do it.
So
They're
it may not
exposed
be
to.
necessary.
And it's a free program, so really all they're paying is for their employees to take the test, and very simple to do. So
And what's the cost of that?
it's free.
Oh, it's free.
Yeah,
Okay.
all the programs are free. So I think Don and his team will do a great job at trying to reach out to the community. And
But certainly if we have recurring problems like we've been having lately on a statistical level, a more toothy approach might be appropriate from the city. But I guess that's where we ended up right now, was to see what we can do with.
And see how many
get
he can-
people getting on the second or third offense. I mean, is it regular? Retailers certainly.
The last time that we went through, we had a significant violation rate. We went to the restaurant owners and things like that. We don't have necessarily an issue with like the convenience stores as much, or the grocery stores. The last time that we had the major violations, it were the people that were the restaurants, the bars, or I guess not the bars, but the people that are serving for the restaurants was
Right.
the biggest violation.
So it's clear, still an issue then. I mean,
It still is an issue.
And I think Don has a real commitment to help businesses on an ongoing basis. So it's not really a inconvenience for them. It's more of a helpful thing.
And one of the business owners that came, they had a violation. And it was, I mean, you're going to get a bad employee that says,
Sure.
I don't care. But he went through the thing and he said, I wish I would have known about this education before I had the violation because I would have done it up front. And he was a relatively new liquor license holder. So.
Thank you. Jessica, anything else?
And then we just had a regular committee meeting, but there was pretty much, I mean, there was a lot of activity, but no actions taken and no decisions made on anything, so.
Can I ask what the disposition is with the no parking change down there?
Can you not?
No, I actually want to know because I've had comments and then I've also asked our city administrator about it. I've also had discussions from mail carriers with it as far as when it's going to happen and why it hasn't.
Yeah. So basically, why it hasn't happened yet is because all the residents are required to move their mailboxes before we can switch the parking. Not many of them have done that. So I plan to have a conversation with Kevin about that and how we can move that process along a little quicker in one of our weekly meetings.
Well, a
coming up here,
deadline
but-
has never really been set.
No, it
and
hasn't,
that
and I
was
think we
one
need to.
thing that needs to be done.
Yeah, I think
as
we
far
need
as I'm
to.
concerned.
We had hoped
I
that.
discussed that with you.
Yes,
as well.
I think that the time is fast nearing for a hardened deadline, but we are dealing with a federal provision of service with the mail delivery. So our ability to demand these types of things must be measured. But I do believe that the citizens are going to get together and we'll have this done within a month.
Yeah, I think we need to have a deadline.
This is for handicap space?
No.
This is for
the no parking that
Yeah.
we passed as a council, the ordinance that put up no parking
Oh,
on
the Southview.
on the west side of Southview and parking on the east side, and then also no parking on the south side of Southview Drive from Liberty Drive over to the first.
And the fact that there's a delay in
Okay,
it because
so
of
we're gonna move on, council. Thanks for your report. Jessica will bring back a firm date if we can, and know that that's going to be taken care of.
Indeed.
And then in our final committee report, Councilman Halley, who represented the city as one of the 4 key executives in really overseeing the execution of RAGBRAI, and was deeply committed and very, very involved during that period of time. We appreciate your contribution, Michael, on our behalf, and if you'd give us a wrap-up.
I'll keep it brief. Sure. For anyone who was here, you know that it was an incredibly fun event. A lot of people coming to our downtown, enjoying entertainment, starting in the afternoon and going well into the late night. The
next day.
The next day. Yeah, you're right. It was going, it kept going. Some people just wouldn't leave. In terms of an economic impact, it was overwhelmingly positive. I've heard from the restaurants downtown and the stores around town how busy they were. So Joy will probably have numbers for our lost income, our lost revenues by the end of this month, perhaps. So we'll be able to report how much was really brought in. That's in a measured way. Just some clarification about the financing. Although the city did donate some money towards this, it was a nonprofit corporation that oversaw this event. And the city crews, who really worked their tails off from way before it started and during and after cleaning and the law enforcement and all that, and the street works, just so much work, so much good work, parks, everyone, they were paid by the event for most of their time, and the rest was very generously donated. But that's something that apparently people think that the city flipped the bill for this. The city donated to the event to make it happen, and we'll get paid back and then some through lost funds. But the event itself was self-sufficient, and we do believe we did profit somewhat for the night and for the day and the night. Mostly the night when the people were enjoying our beverage garden.
Who is in control of that money, Michael?
That's where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
As we stated months ago, we will take any profits and give them back to the community, to any nonprofit group who asks, who fills out a simple grant that we're putting together for any deserving project, and we'll disperse those funds, and then we'll close out the nonprofit corporation called Fairfield Ragbri 2013, because it won't be needed anymore. But one idea also, besides the grant program, would be to do a legacy project. We heard other towns did this. Something very visible that we can all see and say, you see that? That was paid for by Ragbri 2013. And it just shows people, everyone, you know, there's a lasting benefit to hosting these events. I think it was
Solar panels? Or?
Well, some Hackwood used it to put up a digital sign that the city uses to make announcements. So we may take public influence public ideas on that. Input, thank you. On that one, just to get some good ideas. I mean, somebody suggested to go to the pool and gym project. That would be cool, but it would kind of get absorbed into that. So maybe it could be something that was more standalone. Maybe something to do with biking, who knows. So very soon our treasurer will have an idea. I'm looking at him right now. This gentleman, Tracy Vance, is our treasurer. Once he has me sign the last checks and we pay everyone out and we close our account, we'll know how much that is and we'll announce it to the public, take the grant applications, and I think we're trying to aim to have them submitted, and then we'll divvy up the funds and then announce it in September. But for now, we want to thank the hundreds of volunteers who helped with this. This Saturday, look at the calendar here, the 17th of August, we're going to celebrate at a Live on the Square event downtown. Just thought it's kind of a mini version of what happened for Ragbri, people coming downtown enjoying some music. The mayor may be there, if I can get him to.
Mayor will be there.
Okay, mayor will be there.
I've already said yes.
All right. I didn't check.
I would
no more dunk tank.
I would suggest that we're still
Michael.
looking for seed money for the beautification project and rehabilitation project for the bathroom building at the courtyard. And the courtyard project's still very hungry for money. Nice. Right, coming to town there, right on the side of the road.
Are you requesting grant funds?
All of them, if you could give them.
No, we'll be spreading it out. But come down to the square Saturday, 17th, 7 o'clock for a family fun night of celebrating, patting each other on the back. There'll be free cake. There might be a bouncy house if I can get the attorney to sign off on that. Not the attorney, sorry, the insurance guy. They remind me of each other, you know, the legalese they speak.
There were two things that for capital improvements. One went to the county, one went to the city. The capital improvement was the permanent light or electrical outlet that was mounted in the pad alley, and the upgrades to the electrical boxes, which will benefit the community as a whole, for the city of Fairfield, for all their events for years to come. The second capital improvement project, Sean Worley put in an RV dump station at the fairgrounds. So the county benefited by having the RV dump station installed just before Ragbri, and the city did the work on helping facilitate that project.
Yeah, a big shout out. Paul Glossop really did a wonderful thing for our community in offering what he did with that building facade. Not a typical thing to do, and he really accepted very little for it. That was a heck of a move, I thought.
So those are existing legacy projects, in a sense, things that the event paid for that we're going to enjoy for a long time. The final one, actually, is the pedestrian crossings at the railroad tracks. How many years have we been trying to get that? And finally, when I told the railroad company, we have 25,000 guests coming to town in late July, they got on their end and they didn't allow us enough time to do our side. So they weren't actually ready for Ragbri, but the streets department has, if you go on Main Street, it's very, very nice approach, sidewalk approach. The other day I came out from my house and I saw a grandfather pushing his grandson in a stroller on the sidewalk instead of in the street, and it warmed my heart. So thank you, Ragbri, for finally helping us get that one done.
Okay, thanks for your report, Michael. Good work, everybody. again. That will bring us to a closed session that we will go into under Iowa Code 21.5.
Move to go into closed
Yeah,
session.
we're gonna go in- So a motion to go into closed session.
So this is like back here.
Revelinsky, second by Hamilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you.